Hi guys, welcome back to Take a Sip. So today I am joined by the lovely Mylan Ross. and
Hello.
and she is all the way in the south. So we're in completely different locations, but I had to get her on the podcast. And Mylan and I have known each other for like kind of a long time.
Yeah.
Cuz we met when I was in 8th grade and you were a freshman. And I think it was through
Yes,
the
you shadowed me that day.
Yes, I
Oh my
did.
gosh.
I know that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, and I remember see, the thing with Mylan, not to like butter you up, but like the thing that I really love about her is like you when you first like meet her and talk to her, it's like you've known her for so long because she's so like her energy is just like, because like me, like when I first meet someone, like I'll strike up a conversation, but like I'm a little shy. But Mylan's like, hey girl, like I just like
Oh, thank you.
I'm not even trying to like butter you up. I'm just like being honest. Like I just love the energy that you carry around you all the time. Um,
I appreciate that.
yeah. And like even I know you were involved in like a lot of extracurriculars and
Yeah.
all that sort in high school. But I think a big question I have for you, because we talked about this a little bit, about how you said you go to a Christian school in the South. You don't have to say what
Yeah.
school. And I want to know, did you ever consider going to an HBCU? Because I feel like that's a big question for a lot of Black people that they don't know if they
Yeah.
should be going to an HBCU.
I definitely consider it, especially because we grew up in a fairly white, neighborhood. So I was really considering just wanting to just be around black people for a long time. But part of my decision is that my two big identifiers is that I'm black and that I'm a Christian. And I just had to come to the decision on which one I want to focus on. And I was like, I'm always gonna be black and I really can't change that. And I, you know what I'm saying? But I wanna grow the Christian aspect of my identity more. I already embraced that I'm black. Like you can't make me feel bad about being black. So I decided to go to a Christian college instead of the HBCU, which um I like it. So
Why do
hopefully
you
I won't
sound?
ever regret that decision.
You sound a little hesitant.
I'm like now I like it, but I don't want to ever to be like, oh, maybe I should have gone. But that's every decision you make, there's gonna be like a what if aspect of it.
Right. And I honestly feel like even me, like I think the first time, well, actually I never even considered going to an HBCU until I like that was never ever like in my playbook at all because so I have four siblings and HBCU was like never brought up in my house. It was never considered for anybody. And so I just like I didn't really look into it or anything. And for me, like I remember my sophomore year, one of my friends, her name is Lauren, you might know her. And she was the one who was like, yeah, like I want to go to an HBCU and like I think you should, consider going to one too. And I was like, what? Like I didn't even really know. Like I knew what it was, but I was like, I don't know. And
I don't know if I belong there type thing.
yes. And like I think a big reason why I just completely just like didn't even consider it was honestly because like we grew up like in a predominantly white town. My whole life I was surrounded
Yeah.
by white people. And I'm not saying that's a
Yes.
bad thing. That's absolutely not a bad thing, but obviously like when you grow up around those types of people, you're going to act like those types of people. You're going to talk like those
Yeah.
types of people. And I feel like even like at like high school, like sometimes in like the black crowd, I felt like I didn't even belong at times. Like I
Yeah.
felt like I was like an outcast. And because like we came from such different backgrounds, because like some people that went to our school grew up in the south side of Chicago. And then there's me who grew up in like one of the whitest towns in the Midwest. And I just felt like I always felt like judged and intimidated.
I know exactly where you're coming from because I was the exact same way. I felt nervous, I guess, talking to other black people and everything. But honestly, the one thing that I love about the black community is just how when we see another black person, it's like instant love. Like it's like I see you, you are valid, you are there, and I notice you. that's something that I love about our community, and like change. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you just kind of go, gotta go for it at some point. But I think you would thrive wherever you go, honestly.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Like even like the little thing, like the little head thing that you do to every single black person you see on the street, it's like this like mutual like agreement, like we're cool with each other. Yeah, type of thing. And I like I don't know. I just it's like really it's scary like because, I don't get me wrong, I love being around black people. And there's no like that's not why I've decided not to go to an HBCU. It's just because I felt like I just would like I felt like I might fit in a little bit more at a PWI, which sounds so bad. I know that sounds so bad because, I'm black. But it's like I don't know how to like explain it. Like I just feel like this is the only thing I've known and I just don't know if I would I mean, I'm sure I would be. I understand that. Yeah, like I'm sure I would be great, but like this is like, being around white people is kind of the only thing that I've known, and it's scary. Like, and I think a lot of black people go through this like predicament too.
I was gonna say just one thing, like black people aren't a monolith, and like you not going to a HBCU doesn't make you any less black, and me deciding not going, to an HBCU doesn't make me any less black. You just have to like decide where you want to focus on. You don't have to like focus. You know what I'm saying? Like you shouldn't feel bad because you didn't go to one.
I no, I completely agree. That's something that I feel like I need to tell myself every day because like sometimes I feel like not guilty, but like I just feel like bad that I'm not going to one, but I just don't think that's where I guess belong, I guess you could say. But I know like you have always been like very very active on social media about black issues and systemic racism and everything in that whole aura. And I want to know like obviously I'm assuming you've experienced racism in high school in our town. I'm assuming. I want to know like how does that compare to your experiences in college right now? Like is it different? Is it the same? Obviously you're not in an HBCU, so it could be a whole different ball game and you're in the South too. Right. So like I want to know what it's like.
So, okay, I will say one thing. I don't know if I should mention this, but my college is where both of Gene went to school. So he was the one who was murdered in his house when he was eating ice cream, and she actually got convicted, and his brother ended up hugging her. I don't know if you remember that case, but he went here. So that is one thing that I think really impacted this school because now it's like people are acknowledging it, and I think the professors are even acknowledging it more than they would have if they wouldn't have had somebody who actually was a victim of police brutality that went here. Honestly, we're putting up a statue for him like outside of one of our buildings. It's like a lot of stuff that I think is changing because of that. But with it also being like good change, I will say that there have been classes that I've been in, like last semester, where I have had actual debates with teachers on just like the racism in this country and how the same arguments that I've heard this whole summer with the way that black people went about like about protesting for their lives and how that was inappropriate and all that stuff because like screaming for our lives is, oh, you can judge that for right. Like I don't know, it's just the way the conversations that I have to have. So since it wasn't, I don't want to say like a big thing, but it wasn't a big thing, it wasn't in our faces until this summer. I didn't have to deal with that during high school, but now I have to deal with that because it's still in our face. Now it's like you see it. We all saw it. We saw it for 7 minutes when he was kneeling on George Floyd's neck. So it's blatantly out there now, rather than when we were in high school. It wasn't as out there. Like, we had cases and stuff, but it wasn't nearly as loud and it wasn't nearly as big of a deal as it is now. So it's more like not so much microaggressions anymore, but now like you guys should have gone about your protest differently. So that's the difference, I think. The biggest difference right now.
So would you say that like in college, or even it could be like even the location that you're at, like do you think it's more like in your face racism versus like maybe in high school it was more like under the radar racism? Or
Okay, yeah. I would say that in the South, it is more in your face racism. And in like where we grew up, it is less like in your face racism because they don't want to be seen as like racist, but it's still there. Like it's more microaggressions. It's more like you wouldn't pick up on it if you weren't black type thing. You
yes,
know what I'm saying?
I think that needs to be like put on a shirt or something. Like that needs to be shouted from the rooftops, because I don't even mean to interrupt you, but I feel like a lot of people don't understand. Like I've had conversations with non-black people, I'll just honestly white people, where I'm saying like there is honestly a lot of racism going on in our town, but you're not going to know it because you're not like the victim of it. Like it can be small things like being followed around a store because you're black. That is racism. Like making subtle comments like talking about like watermelon or fried chicken. That is racism. Like people think that, I think racism is such like a broad, like it's like a spectrum. It's not just going to be like lynching like it was way back when. Like there's so many different like categories of racism that it can fall under. So yes, I like what you just said, but keep going. I didn't even mean to interrupt you. I just loved that sentence you said.
That makes complete sense. It definitely is a spectrum. And so I'm a social work major, and one of my classes that I'm taking this semester is called Human Diversity. And something that we talked about is like microaggressions specifically. And they talked about how microaggressions are meant to only hurt the people that you are trying to do those microaggressions towards. So when someone says to us, like, oh, you speak so well, obviously a white person will look at that comment and be like, oh, they're complimenting you. Why are you so upset? But to us, we understand that like you're implying that I wouldn't speak well because I'm black. And that's obviously wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's the things that aren't said when you think about microaggressions rather than the thing that is said. So very interesting.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. And I like everything you said, I completely agree with you. Like it is definitely more microaggressions in this town. And I mean, I'm not even going to compare them, but I just feel like I think a lot of people are honestly starting to wake up, especially like in this past year. Yeah. It's just amazing how many eyes have been opened, and I am very thankful that people are finally starting to be like woke about like the situations and like little phrases that they think might be harmless but are actually extremely harmful. But it's just like, to me, it's like, dang, like black people have been trying to tell you these things for years and years and years, and nobody listened. And I think like a big thing with this year because of that is like people trying to amplify black voices. And I think that that's amazing that they're trying to do that, because like for me, I've noticed that if a black person were to say, hey, racism is very bad against black people, nobody's really going to listen because we've been saying it for years and years and years. But the second like a white person says, hey guys, listen up, racism is kind of bad against black people, everybody seems to just like drop what they're doing and be like, wait a minute, you're right. And that's exactly what I feel like happened this past year. Like I think that that's why it was so important for like me to see non-black people speaking on black issues, because people don't understand that like if I say it as a black person versus if you say it as a white person, you're going to get so much more engagement. More people are going to listen to you. And that's why it's so important. Like even just on TikTok, like you can just see it on TikTok. Two people will make identical videos. One will be black, one will be white. The comment sections are completely different. And I actually have a question for you kind of regarding in that like area. How do you feel about comments of people who are like, stop making this about race, or if somebody's like, well, what if the roles were reversed? I want to hear how you feel about that, because I definitely feel some type of way about that.
I honestly hate when people say stop making everything about race, because when we look at America and we look at the history of America, everything is already about race. Literally, the foundation. Like when you think about how we even started, it started off on a bad foot. So what we need to do is we need to stop pretending like this problem doesn't exist and acknowledge that a lot of the issues we have are because of race. I understand that what you're trying to do is fix it, but you're not fixing anything by erasing the past. So let's acknowledge that past. Let's figure out how to fix that past. And then once we fix the past, we don't need to worry about race anymore or whatever, if that's their real goal. But I don't feel like that's actually their goal. I feel like they just use that as a, like a defense mechanism. Like, oh, you're always bringing race into this. Like, you know that it's about race. You just don't want me to say anything about it. Like, let's be real here. But yeah. Oh, and the whole, if the roles were reversed, like they've been reversed. This is us reversing the roles right now. So you wanted it to go back to normal? Like, I'm confused. Like, there is no reversing of the roles, because that's how everyday life is already.
Like, roles are already reversed. Like, yeah, oh my gosh, those comments, like, they make me so, so mad, because, like, it could be like the smallest thing ever, and they would be like, well, if roles were reversed, this would be considered racist. Yes, because personally, in my opinion, I do not believe it is possible to be racist towards white people, because I think that white people are the oppressors of the country. You can be prejudiced towards white people, you can be mean towards white people, but there's literally no way to be racist towards white people, in my opinion, because they are literally the ones oppressing everybody else. They're the majority in this country. Everyone else is the minority. Therefore, they can be oppressed. And so when people are like, well, you're being racist towards white people, well, no, because like if I make a joke like, like, oh, white people can't season their food, that old joke. Some white people will be like, that's racist. It's not racist. It might be a joke that might hurt your feelings or offend you, but it doesn't mean it's racist, because nothing in that joke was built on any sort of oppression on your race.
I think that's a big thing. Like, okay, certain things I feel like, yeah, you can joke about. Like, you can make race jokes that won't be racist. Like, white people, I believe that they can make race jokes that aren't racist. They're just really bad at doing it. So, like, say if I was having a conversation with a white person and I was like, yeah, you can't season your food. Your food is always bland and stuff. And they looked at me and was like, man, let me see your hands. Your hands ashy. Where your lotion at? That's a good race joke. It's so easy to make these type of jokes. They're just really bad at it. Like, and they instantly go to something that's like, oh yeah, you don't have a dad. Okay, yeah, let's talk about why I don't have it. Like, I don't have a dad. Maybe because, like, come on, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, they choose to pick on the things that are like that systemically affect us, that are harmful. Like, you can make race jokes that are very harmless. It's possible. You're just doing it wrong.
Has anyone ever like outright to your face told you a joke, like a race joke that clearly was very much like racist, offensive type of thing?
When I was a freshman, I was friends with this white guy, and he had called this Mexican girl that we were friends with the N-word. And I looked at him and I said, I know you did not do that. And I kid you not, I stood up and I talked to the like that moment. And I was like, I'm not accepting this. Like, that is so inappropriate, so rude. So honestly, like, yeah, people might make fun of you, whatever, be mad because you like got like the authorities involved, but like actions have consequences. Face your consequences, period, point blank. But the second thing that you said, like, I'll tell you the joke, because it was like something about steak, and the guy was like, oh, I want this rare, and it said black girls who aren't loud on the steak, and it was like, and then he goes, oh, that is really rare. And I was like, you do know that's racist, right? Like, that is just straight up ignorant. And I told them that. I said, and for someone that I thought of as a friend, for you to say that to me and not expect that to hurt my feelings, sometimes you got to be honest with these people, especially if you're friends with them. Just be honest and be like, that really hurt me, because I expected more of you. And sometimes they're gonna apologize, and you have to determine if they actually mean it or not. And sometimes they're not. And then you just got to get those people out of your life because you don't need that type of energy around you, period.
Preach it. Speak on it. And you said actions have consequences, which made me think of something because I feel like in the past year, like there has been this big thing, even like Sky Jackson was in on it, where like if people were outright racist, saying the N-word, doing racist stuff, she would be like, call their work, call their school. And people would be getting so mad at that because they would say, well, it's freedom of speech. Right, you're right. You have the freedom to say the N-word if you're not black. You have the freedom to be racist. No one's going to stop you. But it's freedom of speech, but it's not freedom of consequences. Like, you can go on, be racist, do whatever you want to do, but like, you have to understand that that doesn't automatically like...
Your actions have consequences.
And like that, I think that's another reason why a lot of, white people, not all of them, because I know there were some white people who were on the same side as us that were like, yeah, call their school, which made me very happy. But I know like some white people were just not okay at all with the fact that that was happening. And it's just like looking at those comments, like where they would be like, you guys are ridiculous. Like, this person said the N-word and you're going to call their job and make them get fired, blah, blah, blah. Like, it just showed their privilege. And it was like, it's amazing to me how there are some white people out there, not all, but there are some white people out there who refuse to acknowledge the privilege that they have. And my thing is like, nobody ever said privilege was a bad thing. We're not saying that your white privilege is bad. We're just asking you to acknowledge it and to see that not everybody else has the white privilege you have. Like, that's, that's a big thing.
Like, people don't realize that everyone has some sort of privilege. We have privilege because we grew up in a very, very well-off neighborhood. Like, I am so thankful for my parents, and that had nothing to do with me. I simply was just living. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that had nothing to do with us. And certain doors are going to be open because we went to this high school that we went to, because we live in the neighborhood that we lived in. So, like, why are you so upset when people just say, hey, acknowledge that you did come from a well-off situation, and not everybody is going to benefit from that situation like you did.
Whew, just everything, just privilege-wise, like, everybody has some form of privilege. And if you just acknowledge it, the world would be a much better place. Like,
so much better.
Oh my goodness, no, but I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today on Take a Sip. This conversation was so fun. It was really fun to get to see you too. So yeah, but thank you everybody for watching today's episode of Take a Sip, and we will see you in the next one. And don't forget to keep sipping.